Well, good morning and welcome to Calvary Online. We're so glad that you've chosen to spend part of your weekend with us. My name is Brandon. I am the youth pastor here, and I'm with the one and only
Danny. Welcome to Danny and Brandon in the morning.
It's definitely Danny and Brandon.
Danny and Brandon.
It's never been anything else.
Nope.
It will never be anything else.
Never.
Hope you're enjoying your coffee today. There's nothing in this mug.
No, there's nothing. We failed at that.
That's a prop. Just so you know what you're watching.
There you go.
Yeah,
there
awesome.
You go.
Well, hey, Danny, it's good to be here today. How was
Yes.
your weekend? Let's talk. Let's get right into it.
So awesome.
Yeah?
So awesome. Yes, we were here for Superstart. We hosted CIY, Christ in Youth, and guys, I hope you're sitting down because
Yes.
we had over 400 fourth and fifth graders
400 fourth and fifth graders.
in
Those are
Calvary, Bellevue South.
like 9 and 10-year-olds.
Correct.
That's a lot.
Correct.
That's a lot. And you know
It
what
is
I
a
think,
lot.
You know what I think's happening online right now with the audience? It's split. I don't know the percentages, like the science behind it.
Yep.
But there is a percentage of our online audience right now that's like, that sounds amazing. I wish I'd have been there. If that's you, man, sign up to help with our kids ministry. You can hang out
Yes.
with kids all the time.
Yes.
There's another crowd. They're
like, I'm
And
out.
that crowd is like, I'm so glad I'm online right now.
Yes.
I don't even want to smell that.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? And that's how it is.
That's how it is.
As
yeah.
the kids say, it do be like that sometimes. Anyway, so what was your favorite thing about Superstart?
Honestly, for me, I have a 10-year-old who is not emotional, but just doesn't show his excitement well.
Okay.
So on Friday
This
night,
guy?
it was like, yes, that guy. Yes, 100%. That's what he was doing Friday night, the entire time. And I had eyes on him all the time. And when he would
Right.
see me, he'd like smile. I'm having fun. And then yesterday morning.
Was it like a genuine, I'm having fun smile?
No.
Or was it like,
No, it was like, Mom, quit looking
stop
at me.
looking at me, Mom.
Why
Okay.
are you here?
Yeah, got it.
So then yesterday morning, like 7:45, he's like, Mom, we gotta go. Like, we gotta go. And I'm like, it doesn't start for another 45 minutes.
Plenty
But
of
he
time.
was dancing in the aisles by the end of it yesterday.
That is
so
awesome. That's awesome.
I love to see that transformation, like kids coming to these events and like, do I have to be here? And then by the end of it, they're like, don't want to leave.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
it's amazing. It's amazing.
Absolutely. I have I had a lot of fun as well, helping out for a short period of time. But it was so cool to see all the like different churches coming
Yes.
together.
Yep.
To worship the same God. Like we have different churches, but it's one God. We're all on the same team, same kingdom.
Right.
And it's awesome to see that. It was a lot of fun. I mean, I
was.
definitely had fun there. I think you had
I
fun there.
did.
We had a third member of our crew at
We
the time.
did.
Here's a photo from the event. You can tell we're having a blast.
We had
And,
so much fun. I may have had more fun than some of the kids, I think.
Yeah, I know
But
that everyone was trying to trade jobs so that they could hold that
I know.
little sweet baby.
That little sweet baby.
She was so asleep.
Give me all the babies.
Yeah,
She was so
no
asleep.
kidding.
It was so loud.
No kidding. But anyway, hey, Superstart was an amazing event, and we're not going to stop. Like, we're not going to just do Superstart.
That's like
and
just the
move on.
beginning.
Yeah, we've got some incredible events coming up for kids and youth this summer.
Yeah.
Starting out with VBS, which is for 4-year-olds all the way up to 5th grade. Yeah.
Yep.
You can look up that on our website now. We also have summer camps coming up. We have 4th and 5th grade camp. We have a middle school camp, so 6th through 8th grade, and then we have a high school camp, which is 9th through 12th grade, graduating seniors included, which is also put on by CIY, who can
Right.
do Superstart. So, Danny, I know you have quite a few of your own children.
Yes.
How many of these events do you get to send a kid to?
Well, I think some of the excitement for parents is like, hey, I can take my kid and see you later. Somebody
Yeah.
else has them for a little bit. I don't really get to do that, but I don't get to do that because I don't want to do that.
Right.
Like I come and I help at all these events. So I literally have a child in every event except for the high school one. I'm not ready for that yet.
Me neither.
My oldest is going into middle school and I'm already having problems with that. So
Same.
no high school yet, but I might CIY's in Lincoln. I don't think ours are going to Lincoln this year, but
Not this year.
I might head to Lincoln just for the day. I've
you go.
never been a part of it, so
Yeah, come hang out.
We'll see what it is.
Yeah, it's awesome. So if you want information about any of that, you can get that at calvary.ch/events, where you can find not only our summer camp information, but everything that we've got going on, whether it's men's retreat that's coming up,
Yes.
little hint for that, or anything else in any of our departments, calvary.ch/event. So check that out. Get signed up for those events. They're going to be awesome.
We have something else coming up that's really big.
We do. If you're watching at home, man, put in the comments real fast what you think we're talking about.
We'll give you 5 seconds. Time's
Wow.
up. Time's up.
Couldn't have planned that any better. So we're talking about
Easter.
Yeah, it's like one of the biggest things.
Kind of a big deal.
It's kind of a big deal. But anyway, we've got a lot going on this year.
Yeah.
I remember last year about this time actually, because we were talking earlier about how Easter's a bit late this year.
Really late.
Last year this time we were celebrating Easter together, and we had some awesome festivals at both our Shadow Lake campus and here at the Bellevue location, with games and food trucks and inflatables and all the fun. So good news, we're doing it again. And if you are part of our online audience and you've been waiting kind of for a good opportunity to come back, this could be it for you and your family. Come hang out with us. We're gonna have food. We're gonna have inflatables. We're actually gonna play inflatable soccer here at the Bellevue location. It's actually soccer darts.
I know where my kids will be.
So there's some giant dartboard, and you kick soccer balls at it, and they stick to It's gonna be awesome. So I will be out there beating your kids at soccer darts.
Oh, okay. Is that a challenge?
Maybe. I got to practice.
Okay.
We'll call up our inflatable company and get on that.
I need to borrow that.
Yeah. Hey, as we get ready to jump into our service, I'm so excited to be with you guys today. Ryan is going to continue our series called Empty, and he is going to talk about Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. As we get close to that, we're going to gather and we're going to have a time of communion. So if you want to participate in that, grab whatever you have around your house that can remind you of Jesus' body and his blood, whether that's crackers and juice or bread and water, whatever you have laying around that can remind you and serve as a reminder of Jesus' body and blood. We're going to worship together here in a minute. Danny, what are you looking forward to the most about our service today?
Worship. I love to worship.
Yeah.
I love it. No matter what kind of mood you're in, it's kind of hard to be crabby when you're worshiping.
Absolutely. So here's what I want you guys to do. Get the whole family together, turn the volume up as loud as possible, stand up, do some stretches. We're going to jump into worship in just a second. And then we'll get back together here in a few for communion. We'll see you soon.
Hey, good morning, Calvary. Thank you for joining us today. Why don't you go ahead and stand up, and we will sing some worship together. My soul, remember this. Took my sin, he buried it. No longer I who live. Now Jesus lives in me. For I was dead in sin, but I woke up to see the light. But in the cross that saved my soul, all else is lost. The grip of fear has no hold on me. So where, oh death, where is your sting? No longer for I was dead in sin, but I woke up to see the light.
As we continue in worship, we trust and believe in the promise that as we draw near to God, He will draw near to us. Let's sing this together. There is no life without you. You have all that we need. Where you are, every fear is broken. And the darkness must flee. Closer and closer, we will know you. Reaching out, yeah, hear your presence. We want to go deeper in your light. Come alive, yeah. There is no one beside you. You alone are enough. You fling the doors of your heart wide open. We are lost in your love. Yeah, closer and closer, we want to know you. Reaching out, yeah, hear your presence. We want to go deeper in your light. Come alive, yes, closer and closer, we want to know you. Reaching out, we're reaching out, yes, here in your presence. We want to go deeper in your light. Come alive, yeah. To you, we will come running in you. Lord, we find belonging. Your love is all that can satisfy. Yes, to you, we will come running in you. We find belonging. Your love is all that can satisfy. Let's lift that up to Him today. We sing to you. We will come running in you. We find belonging. Your love is all that can satisfy. Yeah. We sing to you. We will come running in you. We find belonging. Your love is all that can satisfy. Yeah. Closer and closer, we want to know you. Reaching out, we're reaching out, yeah, here in your presence. We want to go deeper in your light. Come alive, oh, closer and closer, we want to know you. Reaching out, yeah, here in your presence. We want to go deeper in your light. Come alive, yeah.
Amen. Man, I love worshiping together and just remembering through song what Jesus did for us and how great God is to us in our lives. No matter what we're going through, man, He is available for us to draw closer to Him each and every day as we pursue living and loving like Jesus. And it's that remembrance that brings us to this moment today of communion. So if you have something today to take communion, go ahead and get that ready. Again, whether it's bread and water or juice and crackers, anything that can remind you of Jesus' body and blood. You see, Jesus came to earth as a human, stepped down from heaven, and lived a perfect life. Then he was crucified and killed and buried for our sins. But what we know is this: on the third day, he rose from the grave, conquering death and sin, making that perfect sacrifice on our behalf so that we could be made right with God, so that we could enter into a new relationship with him through knowing his son, Jesus. And so if you've made that commitment, if you've reached out and you've invited Christ into your life, if you've been baptized into the family of believers, we want to invite you to remember what he did for us at this time. That his body was broken on our behalf, that he was beaten and tortured because of our sin, and that his blood was shed. It was poured out on the cross as a sacrifice for us. And so today, as we come to this moment, I want to encourage you to remember the sacrifice of Jesus, to remember what he did for us. And if you find yourself with questions, if you find yourself wondering, how do I enter into that relationship with him? How do I enter into that saving faith in Jesus? And we would love to help you with that. Just let us know in the chat or message one of us, or we'll talk about that, another way to get connected at the end of service today. But, and I hope you take this time to figure out, what is my next step towards Jesus? Is it remembering him in this moment through the practice of communion, through the bread and the juice that reminds us of his body and blood? Or is it just in asking some questions, reaching out, seeking prayer, and getting some of those questions answered? So what I'd love to do for us is I would love to pray and then give you some space to take communion or to wrestle with some of those thoughts on how can you get closer to Jesus. Father God, we come before you. We thank you for your sacrifice of your son. We thank you for sending Jesus to die in our place, to take the place of our sin, to take our place that we deserve, God, so that we could be made right with you, so that we could come into a relationship with you through Jesus. And God, I pray if there's anybody checking this thing out or with questions about Jesus, God, I pray that you'd bring the right people into their lives to help answer those questions, that you'd help them get connected to someone who can help them walk forward. And God, ultimately what we do in this moment is remember that sacrifice, and we thank you for it. We're so humbled that you would choose to rescue us. We love you, and it's in your name that we pray. Amen.
Our mission is to live and love like Jesus. One way that we do this is by giving $1 extra to help those in our community know and feel the love of Christ. We call this 1 for 1. Last week, our offering went to a man who was recently diagnosed with lung cancer. He has no family in the area except for a son who currently serves in the military. He fears his son might soon be deployed with the escalating conflict in Ukraine, leaving him to battle his cancer alone. Our dollars will go to help this man with his increasing medical bills and show him that there is a God who wants him to find peace during this struggle. Because of your generosity, here's what we were able to bless him with. This week's 1 for 1 was nominated by a member of Calvary Bellevue North for a young woman who unexpectedly lost her job and is now struggling with severe depression and anxiety. This has made it difficult for her to find a new job, which is in turn eating away at her savings, causing financial struggle. Our dollars will go to support this woman while she seeks for new employment and to show her that there is a God that loves her and wants her to thrive. Thank you for giving to the 1 for 1. When we give, we are working together to reach one life at a time.
Well, good morning, Calvary. How are you feeling today? Feeling all right? Yeah. I want to welcome those of you joining us across the street. Bellevue North, I hope you're having a great day. Across town, Shadow Lake, I hope you're having a good day. Online, Heritage Ridge, anybody else that might be watching, super thankful and grateful. Right here at Bellevue South, yeah. Yeah. Hey, I want to draw attention to a couple quick things real fast, then we'll jump into the text. We'll be in Mark chapter 14 a little bit later on. But we do have right here at Bellevue South, I've got a dude rocking a North Carolina hoodie back here. He's worn it one time, and it was today. So he put it on today and was like, you know what? They won yesterday, so I see you back there. I got that. Also, yesterday and Friday, we had an event here called Superstart. Our friends at Christian Youth, based out of Joplin, Missouri, came in and put on an incredible weekend. We had over 500 students, 4th and 5th grade students, and adults in this place on Friday and Saturday. And so if you participated in any way, shape, or form with that, you were a parent or you were a volunteer or you were just here doing check-in or something along those lines, man, can we just say thank you to all those people that just did just an amazing amount of work this past weekend? Thank you so much. I know we still have a group here that hung out with us today. So that group from Whiting, so good to see you guys today. Thanks for being here. Cool. Also, want to just remind you that Easter is coming in 2 weeks, okay? Easter's coming in 2 weeks. So on your chair or the chair next to you, you've got one of these or maybe two of these, depending upon how many we have left. And so on one side is Stations of the Cross. That's Thursday and Friday. Stations of the Cross, I'll just tell you right now, you do not want to miss Stations of the Cross. We literally go through the Stations of the Cross. You don't want to miss that. And then on Saturday and Sunday, we've got Easter services at our Bellevue location as well as our Shadow Lake location on Saturday, and then also on Sunday. And then we've also got a festival with inflatables and food. Going to be a great opportunity. So the reason that you have one of these is, one, for you to take a picture and know the service times and know the times for Stations of the Cross. But secondly, for you to take them and hand them to your neighbors, your friends, your coworkers, your teachers, whoever it is that is your one life. Who's that one person that you want to invite to come to Easter? Because here's the truth. Statistics will say that people are more likely to come to church with an invitation. Did you get that? They're more likely to come to church with an invitation. So let's invite them. Let's invite our neighbors, our friends, our teachers, our relatives, whoever it might be. Let's be using these cards to invite those people around us. So here's what I want to do. I want to take just a moment, and I want you to think through who's the one person. Who's the one person in your family? Who's the one person in your friend group? Who's the one person amongst your neighborhood? Who's the one person in your life that you can be inviting to Easter? All of our locations. Everybody got one in your head? Once you got one, go ahead and nod so I know you got one. Okay, Shadow Lake, I see you nodding like crazy over there. You guys are great at this. These participation things, we're good. All right, so once you've got somebody in your mind, I just want to pray for that opportunity. Let me pray, and then we'll dive in. God, we thank you. We thank you for the opportunity that we have today to come with boldness before you and to ask you, God, to give us opportunity and to give us boldness, to invite others into your presence by inviting them to church. And so, God, I just pray that you would give us just opportunities this next week, that whatever comes of the answer is not of our deal, but it's just an opportunity for us to ask. And so I just pray, Father, that you would just give us the boldness in all of that. God, we love you and we thank you. In and pray, amen. Well, if you have your Bible, go ahead and open up to Mark chapter 14. Mark chapter 14 is where we're going to be today. And if you've been with us, you know that we've been walking through the book of Mark from Christmas all the way to Easter. And we're going to land on Easter with the resurrection. We kind of timed it that way. And so we're walking through the book of Mark all the way through. And up to this point in the book of Mark, we've seen a pretty remarkable, pretty incredible story. We've seen a story of Jesus being able to walk on water and to heal people and do some amazing things. It's an account of Jesus' life. But the last few chapters of Mark, as we kind of come into these last few chapters, what you find is that this is the reason that Jesus is on this earth. That he's on this earth for this moment right here and the moments that will follow. These are critical hours and critical days of Jesus' life. We're coming to the part where he's going to empty himself for you and for me. We're calling this part of the series Empty. That as we look last week and this week and next week, we're going to see just how he empties himself for you and for me. And so we pick it up in Mark 14. It's Thursday night, give or take maybe 12 hours. He's just had his last supper with his disciples. He sat with them. He broke bread with them. He washed their feet. He said, one of you is about to betray me. And if you're looking for like an icebreaker, if you got people coming over to your house, that's not the best icebreaker, okay? It's not the best icebreaker. Say, one of you guys is going to betray me, but one of them does. And that guy actually leaves. His name is Judas. We'll talk about him a little bit later on. And the disciples, they're confused because Jesus had this moment where he's told them all, one of you is about to betray me, and then he's washed their feet, and his voice is changing a little bit, and they're going, what's going on? There's something different about Jesus in this moment. I can imagine them looking at each other going, he's just not himself. And guys, he's been telling these guys that this moment is coming for quite some time. He's told them this moment is coming, this moment is coming, this moment is coming. And for whatever reason, just straight over all of their heads, straight over all of their noggins, they just can't seem to comprehend what he's talking about. They've missed it completely. And he knows that one of them's not with them. Judas has left, and Judas has went to get this mob of people, this army of people who are going to come and capture Jesus to ultimately take him to the cross. But in Mark chapter 14, there's this moment between the Last Supper and Jesus' capture that's recorded. And it's recorded in all four of the Gospels. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John record this moment. So it's a pivotal moment. It's this moment in the garden. I was talking to one of our residents today, Ben. He's a resident over at Bellevue North, and he asked me, he said, Ryan, what are we preaching on today? And I said, we're talking about the garden. You know, we're in the book of Mark, we're talking about the garden. And he was joking, and he said, you're talking about the Garden of Eden? No, because the Garden of Eden would be in Genesis, right? And so it would be kind of a stretch to say today, we're going to go from the Garden of Eden all the way to the Garden of Gethsemane. Like, buckle up, we're here for another 2.5 hours, right? Like, we're going to be here for a long time if that's what we're doing. We're talking about the Garden of Gethsemane. So we pick it up. Mark chapter 14, starting in verse 32, it says this: they went to a place called Gethsemane. I want everyone to just say Gethsemane, just so I know you're on the same page with me. On the count of 3, 1, 2, 3. Look at you guys participating. So good. It's in the Garden of Gethsemane. And sometimes you see a picture of Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, and you see him, and there's lilies all around, and he's praying nice and peacefully over in the corner. He's wearing a robe that kind of looks like a Snuggie, right? But I want you to know that's not the picture at all. It's a dark, dark night on this night. It's a dark night. And the thing about the Garden of Gethsemane is it's an olive garden. Not like, when you're here, your family. No, not like that. It's not like that kind of an olive garden. Like, there are olive trees all around. There's olive trees all around, and an olive tree is pretty gnarly. The branches are fairly gnarly in this moment. There's twisted trees. And in the middle of this garden is an olive press. And here's Jesus the night before his crucifixion with the weight of the sins of the world pressing down on him. He's in the middle of this garden. And the name is very appropriate because the name Gethsemane, what I just had you say when you said Gethsemane, that name can be translated olive press. And I find it fitting that what has happened on an olive press, where an olive gets crushed down to extract olive oil, is the same thing that's going to happen to Jesus in just a few short hours. He's going to be crushed down for your sin and for mine. And so he's there in this place called Gethsemane. And Jesus said to his disciples, we pick it back up, sit here while I pray. And he took Peter, James, and John along with him, and he began to be deeply distressed and troubled. We'll come back to those words in a second. And he said, my soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. And then he said, stay here and keep watch. Now, I've been spending a lot of time on this text this past week. I really wanted to understand, why does he only take 3 guys with him? Remember, he's got 11 guys with him currently because Judas is gone. We'll talk about him in a little bit later on. But Judas is gone, and so he's got his 11 closest followers with him. And he gets to the garden. It's a place he's been often. John 18 tells us that this is a place that he goes fairly often. And so he gets to the garden, and he says to the 11 guys, says, you 8, you stay here. I'm going to take Peter, James, and John. You're going with me. Now, why does he do that? Why doesn't he take everybody with him? Here's why. It's Passover week, and there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people in the area. And they're all camped out, and there's a group of people that really want to see Jesus. His fame is growing. He's getting really, really popular. Everybody wants him to heal their brother and their uncle and their sister and their dog, and all those things are happening right now. So there's a group of people that want to see Jesus. And they want to see Jesus because Jesus is a miracle worker, and they want to spend time with the miracle worker. There's another group of people that want Jesus dead. And so there's 2 camps of people there. There's people that really want to spend time with Jesus and people that really don't want Jesus to spend time on this earth. Those are the 2 people that are coming after Jesus in this moment. And so Jesus says to these 11 guys, he says, you 8, you stay here by the gate. You're kind of my buffer. You're kind of my security system, if you will. If you guys stay here, and you'll be my buffer because I'm going through some stuff right now. And he takes Peter, James, and John with him. And the Bible says that he is deeply distressed and troubled. He's deeply distressed and troubled. I want you to understand the picture of who Jesus is and what Jesus is going through in this moment. Jesus is God with skin on. In all of his divinity, we finally get to see his humanity. I believe that this text right here, Mark chapter 14, is the most human picture of Jesus we can find. He is distressed. He is troubled. He's going through it. And he says, you 3 guys, you come with me. Peter, James, and John, you've been my closest followers. You've been my closest friends. You guys come with me. I mean, don't we do that? We get in moments of our life where we get deeply distressed and troubled, where we're just going through some stuff and we're like, I just need my closest friends with me. Maybe it's, I'm focused on this job, this new job interview, this job endeavor that I've got going on. And so I'm going to invite this person to come with me and pray with me about this job. Or maybe it's surgery. Or maybe it's a test. Or maybe it's hospice care. Or maybe it's a graveside service. I don't know what it might be for you, but you want your closest friends with you. You want your friends to be around you when you're going through grief and trials, when you're going through all this stuff. I mean, my family just had this happen just this last week. Our neighbor passed away about a week ago, and his wife is not doing well either. She's got MS, and she's just not doing very well. And she actually called my wife a couple days ago. She just called Blair out of the blue and said, hey, did you call? Like in today's day and age, right, where you have a cell phone that shows you exactly if anyone called and when someone called, she just called my wife out of the blue and goes, hey, did you call me? Blair's like, no, I didn't, but you need me to come over and talk? She's like, I'd love that. Maybe you called me. It's just one of those moments where she's like, I just need someone in my house spending time with me right now. And that's what we do, don't we? We get in moments of grief and trial where we're disturbed and stressed, and we just want someone with us. That's where Jesus is at. I don't want you to miss his emotional state. The Bible says that he is disturbed and distressed. He is rattled. And so often when we think of Jesus, we don't think of Jesus being rattled, but he is rattled in this moment. He is disturbed and distressed. And if you take it in the original language, I know some of you are like, I don't like it when you say the word Greek, and so when you take it in the Greek, the original language, he's actually astonished is the word, astonished. And 3 times in Scripture, he is astonished, 3 times total. It's the faith of the Roman centurion, it's the faith of the Canaanite woman, and it's this moment right here. He's astonished, almost surprised, if you will. He is surprised at the faith of the Canaanite woman. He's surprised at the faith of the Roman centurion, and he's surprised at what he's going through in the garden. Here's why he's surprised. Because just in a few short hours, he's going to experience something he's never, ever, ever experienced before. You know what that is? Sin. In just a few short hours, he's going to experience your sin and my sin on his shoulders. And he is disturbed by it. He is distressed by it. He is astonished or surprised by it. It goes on, verse 35. Going a little further, he fell to the ground and he prayed that if it's possible, the hour might pass from him. Notice not just his emotional state, notice his physical state. You ever got some bad news in your life and you just couldn't stand anymore? Like you receive some grief, you receive some news, and the moment you receive that news, you just fall on the ground. That's what's going on in Jesus' world. He's realizing the weight of the sin, past, present, and future, of your sin and my sin and all the sin of all of the world, and it's causing him to fall on his face before God. He is praying with every single emotion inside of his body. Luke talks about this in his gospel. Luke is a doctor, and he talks about the medical condition that Jesus is going through. It's called hematurisis. And what that means is that the capillaries inside of his body begin to burst, and he's now sweating blood in this moment. That he's got so much stress and so much pressure in his life in this moment right here by feeling the weight of what sin's going to do to him, that he's not just sweating, he is sweating blood in this moment. Notice his physical state. It goes on in verse 36. He's on the ground. He says, Abba, Father, everything is possible for you. Take this cup from me. Yet, not what I will, but what you will. Notice his spiritual state. Notice what he's going through. He's realizing the weight of all of the sin of all the world on his shoulders. He's on the ground, can barely stand up, and he's praying. So oftentimes we get in stuff, don't we? Trials, tribulations, things that we're going through where prayer is like the last thing we think about. But notice his physical state, notice his emotional state, but more importantly, notice his spiritual state. He's coming before God and he's saying, God, would you do something about this? The agony that I'm carrying, would you do something about my pain? Would you do something about what I'm going through? Would you do something about this agony that I've got? Well, what's he agonizing about? 3 things. He's agonizing about the cross. See, the cross, how many of you ever used the word excruciating? Anybody ever used the word excruciating? That was excruciating pain, right? If you don't have your hand up, you probably are lying. But we'll talk about sin later. Right? You use the word excruciating, right? Do you know the word excruciating actually is translated out of the cross? That's where it comes from. That's where that word comes from. When you say the word excruciating, you're actually talking about the pain that comes from the cross. The cross was maximum torture for a maximum amount of time. And so Jesus is agonizing about the cross, about the pain, about the torture, about the excruciating pain he's going to go through in that moment. In fact, in 1 Peter chapter 2, verse 24, it says these words. It says, he himself bore our sins in his body on the cross so that we might die to sins and live for righteousness. By his wounds you have been healed. So he's agonizing about the cross. He's also agonizing about the cup. Did you hear him say, God, if it's your will, you can take this cup from me. And you say, why is Jesus holding a cup in the garden? This cup is actually a symbol. 15 times in the Old Testament, a cup is used to reference the wrath of God. 15 times. Every time you see the word cup in the Old Testament, it's the wrath of God being poured out on his people or poured out on someone. And so Jesus, in the garden that night, when he's praying that prayer and he's saying, God, would you remove this cup from me? You know what he's really praying? God, would you remove your wrath from me? If it's possible, God, if there's any other way, would you remove your wrath from me? Would you remove the wrath of all of the sin, past, present, and future, off of me? See, because I'm someone, I look at that and I understand the severity of what Jesus is asking for. Because I'm a sinner. And because of my sin, I realize that Jesus is going to take my wrath. Jesus is going to take what was deserved to me on his shoulders. And he's going to take what was deserved to you because we're all sinners. Romans 3:23 tells us that every single one of us, we're not disqualified from sin. Every single one of us are sinners. And some of our sin we might categorize and say, that's not that big of a sin. You know, like lying isn't that big of a sin. Cheating on a test maybe isn't that big of a sin. And we can start to justify these things that we say that's not big of a sin. But all sin leads to death. Every single sin on this earth leads to an eternal punishment. And we can talk about our sin in this room or the room that you're watching today. We can talk about that sin. But Jesus didn't die for just that sin. Jesus died for all sin. The sin we don't even want to talk about. Murder, rape, genocide. He died for all sin of all people. And so he's feeling the wrath of that. And so the agony that he's going through in this moment, he's agonizing the wrath of God for all sin, for all of humankind. He's agonizing over it. So he's agonizing over the cross. He's agonizing over the cup. But I think the thing he's really agonizing over is the cutoff. The cutoff. He's about to experience something he's never experienced his entire being. From before the Garden of Eden, he has experienced a presence with God. From the beginning of time, he's experienced presence with God. And in this moment, when he takes the wrath of God on him, when he takes the sin upon his shoulders, he's going to experience separation and alienation from God in this moment. And he's realizing before anyone lays a hand on him, the amount of intensity that he's got. He's got the weight of the sin of the world pressing down on his shoulders in that moment. So what can we learn from Jesus? What's something we can learn from Jesus up to this point in the garden? And we're going to get to the rest of the garden in a second. But what can we learn from Jesus? 2 things. Number 1, pray when you're pressed. Pray when you're pressed. It almost goes without saying, but if the Son of God needed to pray, how much more do we need to pray? I mean, this is Jesus' greatest trial this side of the cross. He's going to go through it, and then that moment you see what he's doing, he's praying. And you understand the cycle that goes on as he's praying. The more he prays, the more he understands what he's going to go through. And the more he understands what he's going to go through, the more he prays. Did you see that? He prays and he understands this is what's going to happen because of God's will for me. And because of God's will for me, I'm going to pray more. He just continues to pray over and over and over again because he understands God's will. Let me ask you this question, and I think this question is vital. Does your agony lead you closer to God or further from God? When you're going through it, does your agony lead you closer to God or farther from God? See, if you hear nothing else today and you just apply that question to your life today, said, I'm going to apply this thing right here to my life. I want you to really wrestle with this question. When you're going through pain and trials and uncertainty and not fully understanding what God's doing in your life. In fact, I just talked to someone in between services. And she's somebody that found out a medical condition that she's got, and she's really wrestling with this and struggling with this. And I talked to her, and she was really wrestling with this question. Does the condition to which my doctor just told me, does it lead me closer to God or farther from God? I think it's important for us to really wrestle with that question. Because so oftentimes we can look at that question and we can go, yeah, I'd be closer to God until we're put in that moment. Obviously, I'm going to run to God when I find out that diagnosis. Obviously, I'm going to run to God when I find out that person passed away. Obviously, I'm going to run to God when, and we can get put in all the blanks and all the blanks and all the blanks until it happens. And the moment it happens, a lot of us immediately, when we don't understand, we say, I'm out. I quit. It's not for me. If this is what following God's like, that's not for me. That when life gets difficult, we push away. Does your agony lead you closer to God or further away from God? See, I want you to see the cycle he goes through. In agony, he prays. And the more he prays, the more agony he feels. And the more he feels, the more earnestly he prays. See, prayer was the secret to Jesus' power. It was the secret. In fact, in Luke chapter 3, when Jesus is being baptized, what happens when Jesus is being baptized? He doesn't go passively into the waters of baptism. No, while he's being baptized, he's actually praying in that moment. He prays early in the morning. He prays late at night when he's facing major decisions of who he's going to call as his disciples. He goes and prays. In Mark chapter 6, after he feeds 5,000 people, and then after he finds out John has been beheaded, what does he do? He goes and he prays. And the disciples see Jesus pray so much that they understand that that's what powers him. That prayer is what powers him. It's prayer that allows him to speak to thousands. It's prayer that allows him to do miracles. It's prayer that helps him have the wisdom that he has. And they see this over and over and over again. How do I know that? I know that because of Luke chapter 11. In Luke chapter 11, the disciples come to Jesus and they ask Jesus a very simple question. You know what the question is? Jesus, would you teach us how to pray? Jesus, we've been watching you. And we've been with you, and we've listened to you, and there's something about your prayer life that does something. You know what they didn't ask in Luke chapter 11? Jesus, would you teach us how to do miracles? They didn't ask that question. Jesus, would you teach us how to walk on water? They didn't ask that question. Jesus, would you teach us how to feed 5,000 people with a couple loaves of bread and a few fish? Would you teach us how to do that? And that's not what they asked. In Luke chapter 11, they come to Jesus and they say, Jesus, would you teach us how to pray? Would you teach us how to pray? Because they understood the key to Jesus' power was prayer. The thing that allowed him to have a relationship with the Father, and the way that he had the relationship with the Father was through prayer. And so they said, would you teach us how to have that kind of relationship with our Heavenly Father? When you are pressed, pray. But not just when you're pressed. See, as you see over and over and over in Scripture, Jesus is constantly in prayer with his Heavenly Father. Which leads us to the second part we can learn from Jesus in the garden. It's this: the submission of your will. The submission of your will is the foundation of God's power in you and through you. Don't miss that long line. It's a long line. I get that. I understand that. But your prayer life will allow you to see the submission of your life. It becomes the foundation of God's power in you and through you. See, I don't know if you know this or not, church, but we are on a collision every single day between your will and God's will. That every single day, we're constantly fighting against what I believe and what my desire is and what all I want to do versus God's will in our life. And Jesus, in this moment, prayed a prayer. And you remember what the prayer was? God, if there's any other way, if there's any other way by which people can be saved, if there's any other way by which you can remove this cup from me, if there's any other way that people can get into eternity, God, would you allow that thing to happen? And I don't want you to miss this. He prays the if there's any other way. There's no other way, church. There was no other way. And we've been putting things around it for so long that we've said, you know what, if we're a good person, you get to heaven. There's no other way. If you give enough money, you get to heaven. There's no other way. If you have a good church attendance, there's no other way. The only way by which we can be saved is through the death and resurrection of Jesus and our faith in him. That's the only way. Jesus is praying, if there's another way, yet, don't miss that. If there's another way, yet, not my will, but yours be done, God. If there's another way, yet. There's a gap between if and yet, isn't there? There's quite a gap. And I was thinking this week between the if and the yet in my own life. Because I oftentimes will live in the, if God, this is your will, yet. I thought about Jesus' life this week. He's in the garden, he's praying this prayer, he's feeling the weight of the sin of the world on his shoulders, and he says, if there's another way, yet. What did Jesus think about between the if and the yet? Between the if and the yet, did he think about us? Between the if and the yet, did he think about the hope that he's giving us? Between the if and the yet, is he thinking about all of the ways that he's going to die for our sin? Between the if and the yet, is he thinking about the faithfulness of God? What is he thinking about between the if and the yet? See, we live in a gap between if and yet. And between the if and the yet, everything hangs in the balance for you and for me. Because I don't know if you know this or not, but Jesus very easily in the garden could have said, if it's not your will, I'm out. He could have, but he didn't. Between the if and the yet, he made a decision to go to the cross for you and for me, to do what it was that he was going to do ultimately the whole time. But I don't want you to miss the struggle that he's got in the garden. Which leads us to another question. When you know God's will, are you willing to do God's will? When you know God's will, are you willing to do it? I mean, Jesus was. When you know God's will, are you willing to do it? Because here's what happens in our consumeristic mindset oftentimes. I'll serve a God. I'll do God's will if it serves me. I'll do God's will if I understand it. I'll do God's will if it works out for me in the future. I'll do God's will if, and then we start to put all sorts of parameters around it. If you know God's will, even if you don't like it, even if you don't understand it, are you willing to do it? See, because there's times that God's gonna say, I want you to do this. I want you to invite that person to Easter. I want you to have that conversation with that neighbor. I want you to have that conversation with that friend. I want you to do this thing. And oftentimes we'll be like, no, that's for somebody else to do. If you know God's will, are you willing to do God's will? I love this story because you see Jesus really wrestling with this, struggling with this before anyone ever lays a hand on him. The one who could walk on water, the one who could raise the dead, the one who could give sight to the blind, he is struggling in this moment. It's full humanity in this moment for you and for me. And he's deciding between the if and the yet what he wants to do for us, that he's going to go to the cross for us. So we pick it up in verse 37. In verse 37, he returned to his disciples. Remember, Peter, James, and John are there. He said, you guys come with me. He's sweating blood. He's going through all this stuff. He continues to go to God, continues to pray this prayer over and over and over again. And he goes back to these three guys. And he says, he comes back to them and finds them sleeping. I mean, these guys have been with Jesus all the while of his ministry. They've seen him raise people from the dead. They've seen him give sight to the blind. They've seen him walk on water. One of them actually walked on water with him. They've seen him do all sorts of miraculous things. They've seen lives changed and transformed over and over and over again. And here is their buddy, here is their rabbi, here is their teacher, and he is absolutely distressed and disturbed. And you would expect that when Jesus gets back to these guys would be fervently praying as well. But he gets back to these guys, and what are they doing, church? Sleeping. They're sleeping. Simon, he said to Peter, are you asleep? Couldn't you keep watch for 1 hour? See, sometimes we read this and we think that this is like the all night long, and these guys were 1 hour. Can you keep watch for 1 hour? Can you stay awake for 1 hour, Peter? Watch and pray so that you will not fall into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Once more, he went away and he prayed the same prayer. God, would you remove this cup from me? Yet not my will, but your will. And he came back and he found them again sleeping because their eyes were heavy. They did not know what to say to him. Returning a third time, he said to them, are you still sleeping and resting? 3 times. These guys who have seen Jesus do everything. They've watched him do so many miracles and so many things that you would expect that they would be right there with him in this moment. I mean, there's 8 guys at the gate. They didn't even get the invite to go with Jesus. You would think these guys would be like, yeah, we got the invite. We're going to go pray. Jesus comes back 3 times and finds them sleeping every single time. And it's easy for us to point the finger and go, what are you guys doing? You guys are fools. You've seen Jesus do all this. You've been with him. You've heard his teaching. You've seen him do miracles. You've seen him do all these things, and you can't even stay awake. And it's easy for us to point the finger and go, if it was me, I'd be awake in that moment. Maybe I'm just talking to myself today, church, but there's so many times in my own life where I get to see Jesus do amazing things, transforming lives. In fact, today you're going to see a baptism video from last week, 11 baptisms. Amazing transformation that takes place in the lives and in the walls that we find ourselves in every single week here at Calvary, and outside the walls as well with our Impact Fund and different ways that we serve the community. And we get to see Jesus do amazing, incredible things over and over and over again. And yet sometimes, church, I find myself spiritually asleep. That I can watch 11 baptisms and still go back and live a sinful life. I can watch 11 baptisms, and I can watch lives be changed, and I can watch lives be transformed and still go back into my sin. And I'm spiritually not awake. And so it's easy for us to point the finger at these guys and go, guys, what are you doing? When maybe we need to point the finger back at us and go, how about we wake up? How about we wake up spiritually? And so the question I want you to really wrestle with, obviously there's the question about God's will. But I really want us to wrestle with this is, am I spiritually awake today? To see God living and moving and active in my life. Am I looking for that? Am I looking to see God living and active and moving through the things that I say and the words that I say and the things that I do? Am I looking for that? Well, the verse goes on. It says, enough. The hour has come. Look, the Son of Man is delivered in the hands of sinners. Rise, let us go. Here comes my betrayer. So the story's building. You've got Jesus in the garden, and he's praying the prayer over and over and over again, and he's just made up his mind, all right, let's go do this thing. He's just made up his mind that he's gonna go to the cross. He's just made up his mind that it's time. That he's got God's will in his life. He understands God's will. He's willing to do God's will, and he's getting ready to go. And then all of a sudden, Judas, one of his followers, one of the 12 that he selected, is now coming with a mob of people. An army of people, thousands of people marching towards Jesus. They're gonna come and they come past the people at the gate. There's the 8 guys at the gate, and they go right around them. And this mob of people is there, right there, waiting to take Jesus, to arrest Jesus, to then take him to the cross. And if you were watching this on a movie, it would be this moment where you're at the edge of your seat and the music is building, and finally, you've been waiting for this moment all along. There's finally gonna be a confrontation. These guys have wanted him dead for a long time, and finally, they're gonna meet up face to face, and Jesus is gonna take them on head on, and it's gonna be this moment of absolute anticipation. Can you wait for it? I hope you can, because we're going to talk about that next week. Let's pray. God, I thank you. I thank you for this story. I thank you for leaving it right there. That God, we get to rest in the anticipation of what you're about to do in us and through us and for us in this story. And God, I pray that we wouldn't get caught up in all of that, but instead we would focus back in on your will for our lives. That God, we might be willing to do what it is that you've called us to do. That God, we wouldn't miss this picture of Jesus struggling and wrestling in his own pain and uncertainty. That so many of us carry every single day, our own pain and uncertainty, but that we might see the example of him and go to you in this moment. God, we love you that between the if and the yet, you chose us. You died for us, for our sins, for my sin. And so God, allow us today to worship you because of that. To bring all of our sins and all of our things before you and lay them at your feet because of who you are and what you're capable of doing. God, we love you. We thank you. It's your precious and holy name that we pray. Amen.
Ryan's going to leave us hanging, but we're going to still sing about a Christ who is risen, all right? This is a new song. We're singing into Easter. Jesus Christ who calls the dead to life, called me from my guilty tomb. The word he I'm saying, alive in you. No storm, no rain can hold back your power. No lie, no chain can hold down your love. Every knee will bow and everyone will know you're king on both sides of the storm. Savior King who's flown with arms wide, the solace of that crimson flood. Step aside. Final breath, the Savior cried, oh, it is finished. Yes, it is done. No storm, no pain can hold back your power. No lie, no chain can hold down your love. Every knee will bow.
stone was moved for good, for the Lamb had conquered death, and the dead rose from their tombs, and the angels stood in awe, for the souls of all who'd come to the Father are restored. When the Church of Christ was born, then the Spirit lit the flame. Now this gospel truth of old shall not need and shall not fade. By His blood and in His name, in His freedom I am free. For the love of Jesus Christ, who has resurrected me. Praise the Father, praise the Son, praise the Spirit, three in one. God of glory, majesty, praise forever to the King of Kings. Praise forever to the King of Kings.
Amen. Thank you so much for worshiping with us this morning. Go ahead and have a seat, and we're going to take a look at last week's baptisms.
You were wearing down.
And I love being able to celebrate those baptisms each and every week. People that are moving closer and closer in their relationship with Jesus and taking that next step. If you're interested in taking that next step, we would love to help you do that. You can go to calvary.ch/nextsteps to get some information on that, or calvary.ch/baptism if you've got questions about baptism or want to sign up for that. Hey, if you're new or visiting with us, or if you haven't had a chance to connect with us, we would love to be able to connect with you. If you go to calvary.ch/guest and fill out the info there, one of our pastors can get in touch with you and help you get connected here at the church. Also, if you feel led to give and help support the mission of Calvary as we impact the communities around us, you can do that at calvary.ch/giving. And as always, we appreciate those gifts so much. We believe that God has been so generous with us and encourages us to be generous in response. Hey, there's a lot of things to talk about right now, whether it's the Final Four tournament, things coming up, tons of things that are easy conversation starters, but maybe you struggle a little bit to have conversations about Jesus, about your relationship with Him, or about what it looks like to take next steps of faith with those around you. We've got an awesome opportunity today here at the Bellevue campus called Story Workshop, where Pastor Scott, whose jacket I happen to be wearing, is going to teach us about how we can share our faith stories with others. This isn't really his jacket, it's mine, I promise. He's going to be helping us work through our own personal stories and how we can share those with others and invite them into life-saving relationships with Christ. Again, that's here at the Bellevue campus, Bellevue South, at 4 p.m. today. And in just 2 weeks, we get to gather together to celebrate what this relationship with Jesus is all about. His resurrection from the grave, his overcoming of death and defeating of sin. We would love for you to join us at one of our Easter services. Again, we've got festivals on Saturday at CSL, our Shadow Lake location, and here at Bellevue, and we would love to see you there, or on Sunday at our normal service times. You can get all that information at calvary.ch/Easter. And again, we would love to hang out with you on that Sunday. Thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited every time we get an opportunity to gather together to worship Jesus and to connect with one another and just take next steps, learn more and more about living and loving like him. So thank you again for being with us, and we hope to see you again soon.